day to all my listeners out there. I'd like to welcome you to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And I'm your host, Cassandra Crawley Mayo. And for my new listeners out there, let me share with you what this podcast is all about. It's for individuals that are what I call stuck. They are just in their way. There's certain things that you want to do, that you should do, but you just can't seem to get out of your way. And what's happening is stopping you from living your best life on your terms. So we talk about titles such as, or topics such as anything that's personal or business development, and also topics that will enable you to self-reflect. And so the title today is From Surviving to Thriving. And many of you heard me talk about that. That's actually on my website, Surviving to Thriving. And who better yet to talk about that with us is my special guest, Allison Ward. I'm going to bring her on to the stage. Good day, Allison.
Cassandra, hello. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, what a pleasure to have you. My listeners, I'm going to read a little bit of Allison's bio just so you get to know a little bit about her background. She is a best-selling author and a renowned speaker who ignites change with her compelling tales of resilience and courage. As president of the Capstone Group, she elevates leaders with transformative coaching and training. Allison shines as a senior trainer for Tony Robbins, facilitating personal and business breakthroughs at high caliber events. She's the heart behind Good to Greatness, a life-changing program empowering women to lead authentic, joyous lives. With an illustrious background leading teams at IBM and Boise Cascade, and an academic foundation from Boston College and the University of Michigan, Allison is not only a corporate powerhouse, but also a devoted mother, a wife creating her own harmony. What a story, man. When I talk to anybody that's worked with Tony Robbins, and I don't know anybody that doesn't know Tony. It could be a few people that are familiar with Tony Robbins. But listen, Allison, I'd like to know, what was your backstory before your life turned upside down? Like, what was Allison about? What was going on back then?
Good question. I think probably like a lot of people, our parents kind of laid out a path for us. Go to college, get a good job, when I went to graduate school, right? So I did all the things I was supposed to do. I got married. I was living downtown in Chicago, beautiful house, 2 kids, right? Everything, I had done it all right. And then my best friend died. It was my mom.
Oh.
And she died at a very young age. And as that often does when we have a great loss like that, makes you reflect on your life.
Yeah.
And what I realized was if I only had another 22 years left on this earth, I did not want to live it the way I was living it. I was in a miserable marriage. Yeah. And I can tell you many stories of things that might have said, now's the time to go. You should make a change.
Yeah.
But honestly, it wasn't until my mom passed away and I had that kind of talk with myself that I was like, that was the catalyst that I needed. So about a year later, I got divorced and took a year to kind of get my footing and turn things around, right? Established my girls and myself. We're living downtown Chicago. And one day, Tony Robbins came on TV and I saw his CDs. And I had actually purchased them before, but I did what a lot of people say Tony says do. They buy his CDs and then they don't listen to him.
Right.
I have been guilty of the same thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
When the students are ready, the teacher will appear. Well, now I was ready. So I bought the CDs, decided to start doing some of the exercises. And I was like, wow, just doing these little exercises, I could feel a difference. I got some clarity about, we're getting a thumbs up there. I got some clarity on what I wanted for the first time, I felt like. And I know you work with people as well. And one of the things I often find is that people don't really know what they want.
Right.
That's the first challenge.
That's right.
And I was in the same boat. And so for the first time, I was able to find the relationship I want. I was able to find what I want in a career better for the first time, but I didn't believe that I could have it. And then Tony came to town. I went to an event. That was a game changer for me.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of my journey back in 2004. I mean, your younger listeners are going to be like, how old is this woman?
Yeah, right. Wow. 2004.
But that really, like, it really helped me to define and change my beliefs that made me know that not only I could do it, I deserve to have the life of my dreams. And that's where everything began.
Wow. So I actually had Tony's tapes, and I may have listened for a little while. And I've actually watched him recently on something. I'd like to know from your perspective, because you firsthand, I mean, you saw him, you were with him. What is it about him that enables people to transform?
I think that Tony's singular gift is his ability to break down concepts that into stories and into steps that allows you to understand and take action.
Okay.
He's truly gifted. He's a truly gifted storyteller. And you can see yourself in so many of his stories.
Okay.
That allows you to step into the space to actually make the change. And I would say the difference between going to an event versus reading a book or listening to a CD is the full immersion, right? It's the kind of crash course, the investment in yourself, and taking that 3-day, 4-day, 6-day, however long the event is, and really investing in yourself. There's nothing like, and whether it's Tony or somebody else, I would say if you haven't taken the time to invest in a live program and really done the immersion, do it. Treat yourself to that. It's truly a gift.
Okay. Wow. So listen, listeners, in the event that Tony Robbins is in town or whatever in your area, Allison highly recommends that you invest in yourself, and you do that. I actually recommend that as well, because I've not seen him in person, but I've seen him live. I say live online, and that's phenomenal.
Yes.
So, Allison. So, my listeners, as I had shared, are actually feeling stuck in their current circumstances, and they're seeking growth and change. What advice would you give them?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is getting clear on what it is you want.
Okay.
So many people don't know what it is they want.
Okay.
They go through life kind of letting things happen to them without any real. For those of you who have heard of Franklin Covey, right? Yes. Stephen Covey, and his 7 habits of highly effective people. First step, begin with the end in mind.
Right.
And so having a clear goal of where you're going cannot be overlooked. And so that's where, working with a coach, working with Tony, working with someone can really help you to get clear on that. There's so many tools, and that really is the first step. Because I don't know what I want. You ask somebody, what do you want? They tell you what they don't want, right? Invariably.
Exactly.
And so that really, truly is the first step, because they have overcome hurdles before. They have all the skills and tools they need. They just have some things that are covering it up, perhaps the belief systems that are not serving them. Maybe they need to reevaluate their values and how they're living their life. But without question, the first step, because your reason why you're doing what you're doing and what it is makes all the difference.
Right. And I love what you said, because a lot of my listeners are definitely in that spot. Like one of the things I used to ask people, if I gave you a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the highest, what score would you give yourself in regards to living your best life? And it's like a deer in the headlights. It's like, so, and I love what you said. This is something you can't figure out on your own. And it's okay to get some support, like you indicated, a coach, Tony, mentors, just to get, if you're in that rut and you're stuck, you can't do this alone. So, I mean, we're not super women.
Right.
some of us think we are, but we're
Right.
not. And just
Right.
get somebody to help you
Right.
get through that. So
Right.
I love what you said.
I would change it just a little bit. We are superwomen because we have to be. And
Right.
guess what? We can still have some support.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
We can still have some support. I have in my Good to Greatness program, I have a group of women who are all amazing, all
Mm-hmm.
accomplished. And they've all gotten to a point in their lives where they say, what's next? I've
Mm.
accomplished this.
Yeah.
And I'm still not finding the joy that I want to find in my life. How
Mm.
do I get over it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we work on. And for me, and I know as from I'm sure for you as a mentor, it's amazing to see the transformation as I
Mm-hmm.
help them to work on. I do it in a group format. I do individual coaching, but I love the group programs.
Right.
And it's like seeing them learn and grow and get clarity and then develop the steps to get there. It's a process, right? It's a step-by-step process which
Yeah.
they can overcome.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I like when you challenge me a little bit and say, well, yeah, we are super women. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I agree with that. But I'd like you to kind of discuss the impact of role overload, because that's why I say, because it's like on women and how they manage their responsibilities and while still trying to prioritize their dreams.
Yes.
So, yeah, so talk a little bit about that, because I think that's the thing, the burnout, the overload, we
Oh,
do
yes.
everything. And,
Yes.
yeah, and then we have meltdowns.
100%. That is really walking that tightrope.
Mhm,
um, can really be a challenge, especially when we have children at home or
mhm.
we have, elderly parents or somebody else that we're caring for. We're managing our careers, our intimate relationships, right? Maybe it's our church, whatever it is, we have all of these roles that we take on, and
Mhm.
that can be challenging.
Yes.
And so we the thing that I always love to say is that you can have it all, but you
Mhm.
cannot do it all. And you
Mm.
might not have it all at the same time.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And so it's a matter of understanding and recognizing this is the time for this.
Mhm.
Maybe this is the time that I really need to put some extra effort into my work.
Right.
Maybe this is the time I need to pour some extra energy into caring for a loved one. This is
Mm.
the time that my girls really need me, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
This is the time that my marriage needs to take some additional attention. This is the time that I need for myself.
Right.
And one of the things I talk about often when my book before was about parenting, and one of the things that I always remind parents, people say, well, I can't do it for myself, especially as they're super women. It's like, well, I can't take time for myself and I've got to do
Yeah.
this.
Mhm.
That is the fastest path to
Yeah.
burnout and
Yeah.
overwhelm. And
Yes.
the truth of the matter is, if you don't, not only will you burn out,
Mhm.
but you're setting up your children for those other people who are watching you that you're a role model for
Mhm.
burnout,
Right.
right? It's like, stop and think about it.
Yeah.
Are you really modeling the behavior that those people who are following you,
Mhm.
you want them to have? Right?
Right.
You need to really check in with that. And then it makes it easier to give yourself permission to take time for yourself and to
Mhm.
make time for yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. So, with that said, how does one reignite their passion? After like what you said, it's like, okay, and basically what I'm hearing you say, you have to set your boundaries. You know,
100%.
oh yeah. And I love it when you say you can't do it all at one time.
No.
It's kind of like, what's my purpose? Well, your purpose last year may have been this year it may be this,
Correct.
so it's no big or small purpose, so to speak.
Right.
So, and when you kind of go through that and you are overloaded and say, okay, I'm going to take time out, I'm giving myself permission. So, how do you reignite forgotten passions and integrate that into your busy life?
Yeah. Again, it first starts with checking with yourself and
Okay.
really taking the time and developing some time to really process.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've got some ideas, I always wanted to, whatever that is for you. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
use myself as an example. Years and years ago, I thought, I always want to learn how to be a salsa dancer. I
Okay.
always love it. I grew up as a ballerina. I love
Mhm.
dance. I never learned how to salsa. And one of the things I decided some years ago was like, I want to learn how to be a salsa dancer.
Mhm.
And once I decided, then I just had to put it in my schedule. Now, I had a big job at IBM.
Yeah.
I was a single mom with 2 children. I had all kinds of responsibilities. But once I decided and I realized, I changed my belief system about how that was going to serve not only me, but my children.
Mm-hmm.
I figured out how I wanted to do it, found the class I wanted to take, enrolled in the class, and set aside that time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They were showing my girls and also taking the time for myself. And not only did I become a very accomplished salsa dancer, it gave me an amazing sense of joy. So it's not just the act of doing it, but it was also that this is how we build confidence and self-esteem, when we learn new things. Right. And so learning something new and leaning into it is the thing that brought me so much more joy than I could ever have anticipated. I thought I just wanted to learn how to be a salsa dancer.
Right.
But it was about so much more than that.
Wow. Absolutely. That's incredible. So what I'm hearing is you made a decision.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like when I was kind of talking to my listeners about my book, how my way was in my way. And I got to a point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's when the decision was made, because I just had it.
Right.
Yeah. So,
right.
Allison, I'm hearing you say, and I think we all experience this, and I think it's a work in progress. I'd like to know, how have you overcome, like, is there a methodology that helps you overcome self-imposed barriers? Like self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, comparing yourself, perfection, all of this stuff that stops us from living our best life on our terms. So I'm curious how do you overcome that? And like I said, it's a work in progress. So you probably have to catch yourself sometimes. Yeah. Share with the listeners.
I will. The first thing I would say is it's always a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Just as soon as you overcome that hurdle and you hopefully get in there and celebrate it, you've written your book and you're enjoying that, you're going to come up with something else you want to do, Cassandra, right? Because that's how life is, right? Mm-hmm. You come to another, not so much a hurdle, another opportunity, another interest that you want to ignite.
Mm-hmm.
So once you do that, I think that the imposter syndrome is the thing that prevents us from stepping into so many spaces, especially as women, right? Yes. Prevents us from taking the job, from writing the book, from, speaking to that person you want to speak to.
Right. Right.
And so I think the first thing you have to do is understand what those saboteurs are. What's your favorite? Is it imposter syndrome?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is it procrastination?
Right.
Is it a set of beliefs that you have? And so each one of those comes with a different antidote. But the first thing is recognizing them, and then giving yourself some grace.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And just really going, okay, that's it. I got it. I see you. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do it anyway. The other thing that I found very effective, I'll tell you, when I wrote my book, I thought about it, talked about it for a while. I was making no progress. Oh. One day, it's the dead of winter, and at the time, at the particular role, I had a 20-year career at IBM. I loved it, but the last job I had, was absolutely making me miserable. Like, I really, really did not like the job for a host of reasons. Mm-hmm. And somehow in my mind, I tied, if I completed this book, I could leave my job. Now, if I'm being candid, there really was no rationale that said those two things can go together. It's not like, I'm going to be a millionaire when I write this book and I can just let me leave and, whatever. There really wasn't. But somehow I tied it, because one of the things I always believe, and I still believe this, accomplishing a big life goal at that, how am I going to reward myself? How am I going to celebrate my success? Right. Mm-hmm. So I did. And then I realized, okay, I don't have the tools. Right. I called a friend of mine who'd written the book. She gave me some suggestions. I got the tools I needed, and I got to work. And I wrote that book in a very short period of time, given how much time I had already kind of spent working at it. Yeah. Right? When I got crystal clear on what it was and why, the why it was important to me, I sat down and wrote that book. Right. Wow. Mm-hmm. I was squeezing in a little time here and there. Saturday afternoon would find me in the library, had 2 hours. I'd write a piece of my book, here, there, to get it done. Wow. Yeah.
and working with kids and
Oh,
oh my gosh,
it was a
kudos.
lot.
Yeah, wow, wow. That was an opportunity for you to get really overwhelmed, right?
It was, but again, the clarity I have found, I have found again and again, when your passion is ignited and
Mm,
your why is clear, it will move you over any hurdle. I'll tell you another time I had probably the biggest job I had at IBM. I was leading a large team selling a supercomputer.
mhm,
And in a span of a few months, I got married,
mm,
we bought a new home,
mhm.
and then I spent the summer in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I was commuting from Baltimore to Cheyenne, Wyoming every week.
Oh, wow.
And I was the leader of the team, and I'm not really technical, by the way, but I was leading a team of more than 100 people. So I was out there every week dealing with the client. There were problems on the project. Da, da, da. I would come home
Yeah.
and I would get up. I would get home like 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday night, Saturday morning. Saturday morning, 7 a.m., I would jump out of bed. I
Mhm.
would go over to a local center where I was training some people who had small businesses because
Okay.
I found a new passion for myself.
Okay.
And this is long before I wrote my book, but I found this new passion. I love training people on leadership and personal development. And I remember my girlfriend said, how can you must be exhausted.
Yeah.
How can you get up? And then
Mhm.
and also, what about your time with your husband or your kids? Well, it
Mhm.
was summertime, so my husband was out playing golf.
Yeah.
My kids certainly were not getting up. They were in high school. They were definitely not getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning. So
Mhm.
I could get up, go do my thing, I was getting recharged. Even
Mm.
though I was tired
Yeah.
from all the travel, I love what I was doing. I love inspiring other people.
Mhm.
So again, once again, it was like once I decided what I wanted to do, because that passion had been reignited, what I wanted,
Right.
it was easy.
Right.
It was simple for me to do it. I didn't feel overwhelmed at all. I mean, I had this energy,
Yeah.
right? That people were like, well, where's that coming from? And that kind of energy always only comes from purpose and execution.
Mm. Yeah, great point. I too like training, love training, and would speak. But what was interesting, I could be tired,
Mhm.
but because it was something, as you indicated, that you enjoy doing, you get the energy. It's
Yes.
amazing to me.
Yes.
But and I'm an introvert, but you wouldn't think when you see me up on stage. But boy,
Sure.
when I get home, I'm like, okay, don't say anything to me. Let me go to my space and do my thing. But you're exactly right, and that's why I want my listeners to try to start defining what it is, and then a lot of them have, and
Right.
then they have those self-imposed barriers that has them stuck. And
Right.
from that, they're going to get some help,
Yes.
so they can get through this thing. Wow, that's interesting. It's amazing. And I can remember doing things sick, very sick, just out there doing my work. And when I get home, I'm so sick. I'm like, how did I do that?
Right.
Yeah, yes. So that passion is something to that passion.
Yes, it is.
How would you describe? Because a lot of people say, I just want to be happy. How would you how would you define happiness?
Yeah. Well, I mean, happiness is different for all of us,
Mm-hmm.
and it's different for all of us at different stages in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There is no, this is the formula for happy and it never changes. It's dynamic. I would say in my experience, again, it's growth and the ability to contribute to others in a
Mm-hmm.
meaningful way
Mm-hmm.
brings a lot of happiness to people.
Okay.
And that could look like a lot of different things,
Yeah.
right? So for me, learning how to be a great salsa dancer
Yeah.
was a way for me to, to develop and grow. The
Mm-hmm.
time that I've spent, again, with working with Tony, I've been in that environment. This is actually in 2024. Actually, interestingly, I'm looking at the date right now. It is 20 years ago, like right now, that I went to my very first event.
Really?
And over the years, I've been to many, many events before I got into the leadership team, rose up the ranks through a senior leader to a trainer, and now a senior trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can imagine, again, as a single mom with a big
Mm-hmm.
job,
Mm-hmm.
in having to travel to events. And now you can do lots of stuff virtually, but I couldn't do anything virtually back then.
Yes.
And taking the time and leaving my home, leaving my children, leaving my job, continuing to grow and to develop. And then to contribute and then to give back once I got on the leadership side, it's now I help other people. So that's my journey. It doesn't have to be your journey. It doesn't have to be your listener's journey.
Right.
But there's some way in which they can contribute. We are all experts in something.
Yes.
And so by sharing, maybe you are an amazing chef, amazing seamstress,
right,
an amazing presenter, an amazing, whatever it is, we all have a gift. And sharing that gift with other people, right, allows us to contribute to other people in a meaningful way. And that's such an easy way. I know my older daughter is passionate about personal finance. And she because she had her missteps along the way.
Yeah.
When she was at Spelman College, and when she was in college 1 year, she did internship, lived with her grandparents, so she didn't have to pay for housing, blew all her money. Oh. Right? Then she got scammed out of some money 1 year. And she said, you know what, I need to figure this thing out. She had so much pain around it. And she figured out she better master that skill. I shared a podcast with her, and then she went deep dive into it. But she learned and learned and learned. And now she talks to young people. And she speaks mostly to HBCU graduates. She's going to be doing some speaking this fall at schools to let other people know. So that's the growth and the contribution piece.
Right.
And that brings... It's really hard to describe the level of happiness. But again, it's first looking, what do you love? What are you good at? Right? You have so many skills, you don't even realize it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because and also others see each other differently than we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll give you one little quick thing that maybe your users can do to uncover those hidden skills. Ask 5 people you know. What am I great? Like, what am I great at?
That's right.
Like, when you think of me, right? When you think of filling your name, Allison.
Yes.
You think of Cassandra.
Yes.
What do you think I'm great at? Because it's true. We have blinders.
That's right.
Right? We just don't see our own greatness.
That's right. Exactly. So is that how you got the design? What are you the design expert?
Yes. Well, you know what? It's funny. One of the people in one of my programs, she's like, first of all, she's like, your program's like a massage for the soul, Allison. Like I just feel so good when I go through this. I'm like, I love that. I love that kind of moniker. But she's like, you helping me to design my best life. Right. She's like, you're like a life design expert. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. Let's go with that. That's what I help people do, whether it's in business or in their personal lives.
Right. Wow. So that's how you got that name.
Yes.
I love it. So what first steps can a woman take towards designing a life that aligns with her truest self? I understand they got to figure out, first of all, what it is that they want, what their passions and values are. Right. But yeah, is that the first step though?
I would say, it's a good place. I actually like to have people first, again, recognize what's going great, right? Okay. It's one of the reasons I use that my title of my program, Good to Greatness, because first of all, I always have people check in what's going great, because people so often look over what's great and they focus on what's horrible.
Right.
Well, this is wrong and that is wrong and this is wrong and this, And here's the thing: life has a way of handing you more of what you're focused on, and often it's just because you're simply overlooking what's great.
Right.
Okay. So the first thing I have people do is what's going great. What's going great, right? When my group gets on the phone every week, first thing I ask is go around the room. What's great? Show one thing that's going great in your life, right? Because I'm programming them to start doing that. We don't have a habit of doing that, right?
Right.
What would you want to repeat in your life?
Right.
Right. And then we can talk about what's not going great.
Yes.
What could we do to improve upon that?
Right.
Right. Okay. That's the first step, right? Then we start from there. Once we've kind of identified that, that also helps us to really go, oh, well, I didn't even realize that this was going so great. I didn't even realize that I got there. Right. Oh, okay. Well, how did I get there? Right. Okay. Recognizing some of those steps and then setting some new goals. What are some things that you want to do?
Okay.
Then breaking those steps down so they're achievable and measurable, right? SMART goals. You've heard of my SMART goals. Essentially breaking them down into kind of a 4 quarters or whatever, 6 months. Maybe you have a goal for only 6 months, right? So breaking that into bite-sized pieces so you can track your progress, right? And then you want to go on to thinking about, now this is the thing that a lot of people skip when they do goal setting and they think about it. Who would be able to achieve that goal easily? What kind of person? What skills do they have? What kind of values? What beliefs do they have? Who's the person who can, oh, this is easy, right? I can say. And then you're kind of doing a gap analysis of, here's the person who has those skills. Here's the skills that I have. Where are we aligned? Where's there a match? And what do I need to do to close the gap?
Right.
Okay. And then the kind of the final piece, the final piece of this is, am I spending time with the people who are going to help me get there?
Yeah. Good.
Because we spend the time with a lot of people. Yeah. We have those people who are negative or who, just are not helping us get where we want to go.
Right.
Right. And so, and that's actually one of my programs I do, Design Your Ideal Life. And I've pretty much described the whole program for you, right? It's like you do go through all the steps. But that is the thing that people are like, wow. Like when I really think about it, and sometimes it's hard, particularly with people at your family. Maybe you need to cut people out or spend less time or be more intentional about letting some other people in. I feel so good when I spend time with so-and-so.
Yes.
Exactly. I need to think about how to carve out more time with that person, right? So really being intentional with the people you're spending time with.
Yes.
Yeah.
I concur. I call that sometimes a board of directors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or a circle of influence, because they can definitely impact you. So 100%. I'm glad you said that.
100%. Yeah, I call mine my Fab Five.
Oh, okay.
It's my 5 girlfriends who, and I came up with that because I had a period of time where I had a friend who was very ill, and I didn't know it. I was so, like many of us, were pulled in so many directions. I'm a mom, I got a job, I had a lot of friends, and I didn't realize until later. And I really felt badly about it. And I'm like, you know what, Allison, you got to really evaluate. This is a person who's been a friend, who, is heading in a similar direction, all the reasons why she's a great friend, but have I really been a friend to her? Am I showing up the way I want to? And that's what helped me to say, I need to make a decision, because there's only so much of your resources.
Yes.
And our greatest resource is our time.
Right.
It's not our money. People, if I had more money. If you have more money, things wouldn't change. You'd still be you. You really wouldn't. But what you have is time. And so when I decided that I'm not showing up the way I want to, and I said, I got to be much more intentional. I picked who those people were. And if there's an option to spend some time with that person or somebody who's not in that group, I always choose that person. I always make my investment there, and they know who they are.
Okay, that's good. That's awesome. What's next for Allison?
That is an excellent question. I feel like, right now I'm kind of in that period of reinvention.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my next book, thinking about where I want to focus my energies. Is it working more with corporation? Is it working more with individuals? My passion in life is leadership, leading yourself, leading other, as a parent, leading in corporate. So I know it'll sometime be around leadership, but I really am in that redesigning. I would expect in the next couple of months, you'll see me start writing my next book.
Okay.
and relaunching my speaking career. Because that's something I love to do. I'll continue to work with Tony. I'll be speaking at his leadership event in a couple of months. But leadership is my thing. Leadership is the thing that I'm passionate about.
Okay. Yeah. And I asked that because you said, once I do one thing, and this is for anybody, then you're like, okay, what's next? You know?
Yeah. The only thing I would say is make sure you celebrate that thing you've achieved, because often we don't celebrate either, right?
Exactly.
Celebrate, right? Exactly. And then, because that's how we continue to grow and contribute. And it would be, wouldn't it be selfish of me to have taken all this time and learned these skills and not help other people?
Exactly.
Right? To me, that would be selfish. It would be selfish for you. You've accomplished so much.
Yes.
It would be selfish.
Yes. Yeah, I concur, because I remember one of my goals was to write a book. And then once I was so excited and I accomplished it, I celebrated. And then I said, well, that's it, to myself, like, okay, that's it. That's what I wanted to do. And something was like, no, you have more to do. You have to share what you put in there. You have to give back, what you have. And so I definitely concur. That's my fur baby howling. And I thought he was going to be good throughout the podcast. But he's not.
Well, I'm just happy that my fur baby didn't reply.
Right. Yeah, you have a good baby, because mine is getting indignant now. But Allison, how can people get in? Well, let me ask you this: your program that you have, how long is that program for?
My program, Good to Greatness, runs for 8 weeks. It's a group coaching program. I have not yet announced the new dates for it this year. But I would say my Design Your Ideal Life program is a self-study program. So if you go into that, you'll at least be on the list to let you know when Good to Greatness comes out again for its next round. I have other groups, but the other groups, I only work with my masterminds of people who've been to Good to Greatness, right? Because it's a foundational training. Right. And then my masterminds are for people who've already been through that. But the Good to Greatness program is kind of that. But the other program, Designing Your Ideal Life, is a great place to start. And it's self-study. So I've got a great, platform that they can do that on. And in fact, I have a discount code for your listeners, Cassandra, but they can get $20 off of it. If they just put the word podcast in when it comes to payment, they can get $20 off on it. But that's on my website at AllisonWard.com. And then work with Allison, and you'll see the Design Your Life program there. Design Your Ideal Year.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Allison, this has been great. You have provided a lot of insight, nuggets, and you even sprinkled some diamonds in there, I think, for my listeners.
I'm happy.
Yeah, and I'm going to share with my listeners, if you heard something that resonated with you, please share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with somebody. Don't let this just go to naught, because there's a reason that you're listening to it now. So I'd like for you to take advantage of it. Also, this will go live actually in the month of July, the 1st of July. However, it will also be on my social media. So everybody that's listening will know that I will announce it. I will market it and everything, because I thought this was great. And I love From Surviving to Thriving. And I'm certain that you're going to use some of these things that Allison talked about, so you can stop just surviving and move towards thriving. So Allison, again, thank you very much. It was my pleasure to speak with you today. And I know that this is going to be a blessing to so many of my listeners.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I really appreciate you having me, Cassandra. It's been important.
Sure. So my listeners, I'm on every Wednesday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what I always say is bye for now. I don't say goodbye. And I say, God bless you. Thanks again, Allison.
Thank you.